June 13, 1971. Secrets exposed. The New York Times began publishing the Pentagon Papers, a classified government study detailing United States political and military involvement in Vietnam from 1945 to 1967. The release of these documents marked a critical turning point in American public discourse, government transparency, and press freedom. Commissioned in 1967 by then-Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara, the report consisted of over 7,000 pages prepared by the Department of Defense and spanned the decisions of 4 presidential administrations: Truman, Eisenhower, Kennedy, and Johnson. Daniel Ellsberg, a former military analyst employed by the Rand Corporation, played a central role in the leak. Having worked on the study himself, Ellsberg became increasingly disillusioned with the government's conduct of the war and its pattern of misleading the public. In early 1971, he secretly photocopied the documents and passed them to the New York Times, which then undertook a careful legal and editorial review before publishing selected portions. The initial installment, published on June 13, 1971, recounted the U.S. government's deepening involvement in Vietnam long before public acknowledgement, including actions to undermine the Geneva Accords and secret bombing campaigns. The report demonstrated that successive administrations had escalated the conflict while knowingly misleading Congress and the American people about the war's progress and purpose. Within days of the first publication, the Nixon administration responded by seeking a federal court injunction to halt further publication, citing national security concerns. This legal conflict resulted in a landmark Supreme Court case, New York Times Co. versus United States, 1971, commonly referred to as the Pentagon Papers case. On June 30, 1971, the Supreme Court ruled 6-3 in favor of the New York Times and the Washington Post, which had also begun publishing the papers, affirming the press's right to publish government documents in the public interest and strongly reinforcing First Amendment protections. The Pentagon Papers did not directly lead to the end of the Vietnam War, but they contributed to rising public disillusionment with the government. The publication deepened widespread distrust of official statements and accelerated anti-war sentiment across the country. They also highlighted the disparity between public rhetoric and private policy decisions made by U.S. leaders. The episode marked a turning point in the relationship between the press and the government. The Supreme Court's decision set a precedent against prior restraint, reinforcing that the government cannot censor or suppress a publication simply because it might embarrass officials or reveal poor decision-making unless it presents a clear and immediate danger to national security. The case strengthened the role of investigative journalism in holding power accountable. Following the ruling, public and congressional attention shifted toward increased oversight of the executive branch, leading to legislative efforts that sought to rebalance the powers between Congress and the presidency in matters of war and foreign policy. The War Powers Resolution of 1973, for example, was partially a response to the pattern of executive secrecy and unilateral decision-making highlighted in the Pentagon Papers. Daniel Ellsberg was charged with violations of the Espionage Act of 1917, along with other charges related to the theft and distribution of classified documents. However, his case was dismissed in 1973 after it was revealed that the Nixon administration had engaged in illegal activities against him, including a break-in at his psychiatrist's office, which undermined the government's prosecution. The publication of the Pentagon Papers remains one of the most important moments in U.S. media and political history. It demonstrated the vital role of a free press in a democratic society and forced a reassessment of the boundaries of state secrecy. It also cemented the responsibility of news organizations to inform the public, even at great legal and political risk. Today, the Pentagon Papers continue to serve as a symbol of government accountability and press independence. The case is routinely cited in legal debates involving whistleblowers, national security, and the limits of executive power. The events of June 1971 reflect a critical moment when the truth took precedence over political protection and when constitutional principles were affirmed through the courage of individuals and institutions. For enthusiasts of historical ephemera, visit history-collectors.com to find collectibles that might complement your collection. you can own a piece of history.